Okay, 7th graders, let's go over a little bit of Punnett squares because we're still getting confused on this. All right, so let's remember that homozygous means it's the same letters, right? The root word right here means the same, right? So if it's the same letters, you can have either two dominant letters that are the same, like a capital A, or two recessive letters that are the same, little a, little a. It doesn't matter what the letters are, but in order for it to be a homozygous allele, they have to be the same. Okay, now when we're talking about heterozygous, means different. It is different alleles. You have a dominant and you have a recessive. You have a capital letter and you have a lowercase letter. All right, so let's look at this cross right here. And we're going to do the one that everyone seems to be getting a little confused about. Homozygous, we're going to pick a letter, okay? Let's do R because R is my last name, okay? So homozygous is crossed with a heterozygous, right? So homozygous means it has to be the same. Now you can choose, it doesn't say it's a dominant or a recessive, so we can choose. So homozygous here, we can either choose a dominant R and a dominant R, or we can choose a recessive R or recessive R. Capital R, or lowercase r, right? We could choose whatever we want because it doesn't say it's dominant or recessive. Now, heterozygous means it has to be different. It must be different. So the only letter combinations there is a capital R and a lowercase r. Okay, so now when we're doing our Punnett square, we draw our box here. Okay, what do we want to do? I'm going to choose the little one, okay? So I'm going to choose that one for my homozygous. I'll do the other one down below. And let's do our cross. So the letters go on the outside of the box here, all right? It doesn't say what's male or female, all right? So we can put them wherever we want to. So I'm going to put a little r and a little r. And then my heterozygous right here is dominant R and little r. So I'm going to take dominant R and little r. So let's cross them now. So I have this cross. I have dominant and little. I have dominant and little. And then I have little, little, right? Okay, and then my next box is little, little. All right, genotypes. Genotypes means letters. Letters. So what are my letters going to be? Well, 2 of them are going to be big R and little r, and 2 of them are going to be little r, meaning that I will have a 50% chance of getting a dominant R and a little r, and I will have a 50% chance getting a recessive R and a recessive R. Okay? Now, phenotypes. Phenotypes, remember the P, what does it physically look like? Okay, so let's say that if you have a dominant R, you are going to be tall. And if you are a recessive R, you're going to be short. Okay, so what does that tell me? That means I will have 2 offspring that will be tall, and I will have 2 that will be small, right? So the phenotypes are 2 will be tall and 2 will be short. Okay, so now let's do it the other way. We did 2 recessive, lowercase, homogeneous alleles on top. All right, we're going to do it the opposite way on the bottom here. So I'm going to draw my Punnett square. It's hard to draw with holding the phone. All right, so I'm still going to use my heterozygote alleles which are different. Okay, so I plug those in. That is a dominant R and a recessive R. Now, since I did 2 recessive, I'm going to switch it around because homozygous means that I can have 2 dominant or 2 recessive. The directions didn't tell me which one, so I'm going to show you both crosses. So we're going to go down to the second one, and I'm going to use dominant R and dominant R. So these are showing 2 homozygous alleles, and these are 2 heterozygous alleles, and now we're going to cross them in this Punnett square. So let's cross. We'll have a dominant and a dominant. Okay, we're going to have a dominant and a dominant. All right, now let's cross this one. We have a recessive and a dominant. So we have a dominant and a recessive. And then let's look over here. We have a dominant and a recessive. Now you can put it as reading it. So starting here and going with that letter, you can write it like this. But when you come to 8th grade, we are going to not write it with the lowercase. We're always going to start with the capital letter. Okay, so this is just for you to understand how to do the cross, but you need to really write it with the capital letter going first. All right, so here is my cross. Now let's figure it out. My genotypes. Okay, so my genotypes are the letters. What are my letters? Well, I'm going to have 2 that will be dominant, dominant, right? And that is going to be a 50% chance to get those allele patterns. And then my other are dominant and recessive are dominant and recessive. So I will have 2 that are going to be dominant and recessive are, giving me again 50% chance of the offspring having those alleles. Now, physical phenotypes. Remember the P? Phenotypes. Okay, what are they physically going to look like? Well, if we're still going with dominant R is tall and recessive, I'm going to see all of my offspring, all 4 will be tall. I know that all 4 will be tall because there's not a recessive alike gene. There are no 2 little r's indicating I will have a short offspring. When I'm using this cross, all of them will be tall. I will have 100% offspring will be tall. Okay, I hope that clears it up. And I hope you guys can make your corrections and turn those in. You officially have 1 more week left with me. That's it. All right, so all homework must be turned in online by the 15th. If you're turning stuff into the school by paper, it's the 18th, right? So the 15th of May is online. And the 18th, which is Monday, is your papers are going to be turned in. And you are going to turn in your books. Turn in your books. So any of your science books, if you left them in your locker, we'll collect them. But if you have your books, you need to turn them in back to me because I get a little discount. Okay, have a good week. Bye.